Okay, here's a part two. If you didn't see the first one, by all means, run over there and jump into that first one. It's really short. It's about 8 minutes long, something like that. 6 minutes. I don't know. But really good. Basically, brief overview. Used to work for this guy. He said things never change. And I don't think his statement aged well because things always change. So now I want to talk a little bit about logistics and how that changed in the industry from when I was in the industry, going back into the very beginning of my years, working for a distributor and supplier to where we are today, right? So logistics. I'm talking about the guys that do delivery. So understand this. Back in 2006, 2007, and even before that, right? One of the craziest things about working at a distributor, and I had a CDL. I had been a swing salesman. I'd been a salesman and manager, but also as a swing salesman, you have to drive, you have to deliver if they're short on drivers, right? So I had a CDL, so I did some delivery. This is crazy, and this is Texas, right? No AC in the trucks. I can't make this up. Straight up, no AC in the trucks. I remember sitting in a safety meeting, and one of the drivers was complaining. And he said, and let me just put a caveat. Global warming's a real deal, right? It might be hotter now than it was back then. But this is Texas. It's always been hot. Like, it's always been ungodly hot, right? I've been to Africa. It's hotter here. It's hotter. Houston, Texas. But I digress. I was in this safety meeting, and one of the drivers was like, why can't we get AC in the trucks? And the safety guy said in that meeting, he said, because it's a distraction. The AC is a distraction. This is how I remember it. And I remember raising my hand, and I said, so it's dying. Heat stroke, death, that's a distraction. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you talking about? No AC. I don't know that any distributors allow the drivers to go in trucks with AC anymore. If there are some drivers out there, please let me know in the comments. You don't have to tell me where you work at, but Jesus, Joseph, and Mary Magdalene, I don't understand. It was 106 earlier this week. 106. No, ain't no way you driving a truck with no AC. It reminds me of when I was in high school and I played football, and we used to do 2-a-days, and everybody did it different. Some people used to bring the Marines in, and the Marines would like just work the guys to death. We ran this crazy camp, and people would be passing out and stuff like that. And I remember one year the coach was like, "You guys aren't running. You guys aren't focused. I don't want to see anybody at that water." He had the water trough. He's like, "Turn it off. You guys are gonna get out there. You're gonna hustle. You're gonna work hard." Da 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 da. So we're out there. We're trying our best to earn our water. Guy passes out. He straight up passes out. Thank God I'm laughing because he's alive and well, probably married with kids. They get him out of there, take him to the hospital. Here comes our coach. I mean, guys, what the hell is going on? I don't know what happened out there. We gotta stay hydrated. Like, what? And that's was the mentality of this distributors back in the day. It was like, you need AC, you'll be all right. So, yeah, that was a crazy one. Another thing was pedal stops. So I talked earlier in the first one about how foot traffic into accounts, it's never going to be not necessary, but the value of it has decreased, in my opinion, when you can touch more accounts digitally now than you ever could before. So back in the old days, I guess, they used to have this thing called pedal stops. So a driver he goes out with 1,000 cases on his truck, but there might be 100 of those cases that are unaccounted for. And what he would do is he had a list of stops that were his own personal stops, right? So the salesman has stops that he's keyed in cases for. So he walks in, he prints a receipt, and it says this person gets 150 cases of beer, and it lists out what he needs, and then you roll it in. But he also had a stop where he would go in with his little palm, little machine, and he would say, okay, Joe Bob, what do you need for, Lulu's mom and pop strip club, right? And you go in there and he makes an order. This gives a driver the ability to sell in new products. It gives him the ability to achieve, we would put incentives on products for them to achieve. Keep in mind, this is something that has carried on since the beginning of time, or the beginning of beer time. So imagine the guy in the Clydesdales, and that's what they were doing. They were rolling around with them Clydesdales, pulling up, hey, you get what I'm saying? Like they're selling cases right off of the wagon. So it's the same thing for the driver. He goes in there, he makes an order. It gives him the ability to use selling skills to engage with the customer. A lot of times it was very helpful because if that driver got promoted and he became a manager over that area, then the different customers in the area feel this kind of camaraderie because they've watched this kid grow up to become what he is, right? Working hard, the true value you get from working hard is experience. So it gave experience to these drivers so they could elevate themselves into becoming salespeople. Yes, awesome. It also had that direct connectivity with the customer. It also had, hey, you're walking in there with a case of beer. It's harder for them to say no when their driver's coming in with it, right? Well, at some point, even when I was there, they had gotten away from this. There's plenty of reasons why this became not a great model. Number one, there is a possibility of theft, which I'll talk about that in another video. But there's always a possibility of that because there's all of this gray area of you going in there, you're creating an invoice and all that stuff. It's a gray area. We'll talk about it later. But more importantly, stop counts increased while I was there dramatically. Case amounts increased dramatically. Case variety increased dramatically. The only thing that decreased was the time to do all this shit. That's it. All of these things made it not impossible, but not efficient to have somebody take 20 minutes to sell in different products. It basically put the drivers in a position where they were going and they were doing specifically their job of driving the truck and delivering the product. And it really kind of hurt the efficiency of trying to be a salesperson also. So in my opinion, it kind of went the way of the West. And some of those small accounts in my time, they just got kicked up to the salespeople. So the salespeople, which again, not necessarily the most efficient way either, would go in there and then they would just make orders. And they would add those orders to the truck for these small mom and pop, 10, 15 case accounts. Some of them 6, 7 cases going into the account. Not efficient either, but as we learned in the first video, that's where e-commerce also becomes a bigger factor, because now you can just tell those small mom and pop accounts to go to your distributor page and just make your order and we'll put it on the truck, right? The last thing I want to talk about is with logistics is collecting money. So in the old days, the driver has a safe on the truck and they pull up to the account. If they're getting paid in cash, those same little mom and pops want to pay them in cash. They collect that cash, then they put it in a bag and they put it in the safe, and then they settle up in the settlement room when they're done. Well, it seems to me, now I'm sure there's still distributors that do take cash, But it was weird because there was a pressure from the mid to small accounts to continue to take cash, where other larger accounts, they would just have an account with the distributor where they could directly pull funds from that account, or they would write checks, or they had other money orders. But you still had these mid-sized and small accounts that wanted to pay straight cash. And that became a huge problem. I remember talking with, it wasn't my distributor, but it was a guy driver for a distributor for one of the soda companies. And he he told me the story where he was rolling into this account. He was collecting all this money, and as he was walking out to the truck, he saw these little feet under the like on the other side of the truck, like under the truck, and it was running around, and then it disappeared. And so he gets on the phone, and he jumps in the truck, he locks the doors, and he starts it up, and he's like, "Yo, I'm about to get jacked." So another thing, back in the day, we used to have these Nextels. So he's like, he's like, "Hey, I need somebody. What's going on?" I'm about to get jacked. I think some guys are climbing on the truck, or they're trying to do something. I'm about to get out of here now. And the guy, and they told him on the Nextel, make sure you put the money in the safe. And the dude was like, "Have you lost your mind? I don't put the money in the safe so he can kill me." No. So anyways, the guy jumps on top of the truck, leans over the front windshield, points the Uzi at him. He says, "Come up with the bread." And I believe he hadn't put the money in the safe yet, so they got the money. But you know what it is, like it's getting jacked. Like I've been in those situations, not delivering. I've told a story about once where there was a guy. He did this for every driver. Tough neighborhood, had this store. You would count the money, and then the store owner would walk you out with a shotgun, and he would like cock it as soon as he hit the door. He's like, "Choo, choo," and then like everybody would just run. And that was like his way of protecting the drivers, right? But I've been in situations too where I've had to do collections. So collections, you could be collecting up to $80,000. Somebody who, whatever, something's gone wrong with their money or whatever. So you're up there collecting this money, and everyone in the store, I had took the money and laid it out while I was counting it. So I'm behind the glass, the hood stores, they got the glass wall between you and the customers, and I'm on the ground where nobody can see me, right? So I don't remember how much it was, but however much it was is the most amount of money I've ever seen in my life. So I took all that money out, I laid it down, I'm like, wow, like I would have robbed me. I wanted to rob me, right? I take the money, I put it in a bag, then I put that bag in a black trash bag, and then I put that black trash bag and I stuff it in my jacket, right? And I get ready to leave, and the store owner was like, "No." He's like, "They'll kill you." And he said it with like such sincerity, but such like, come on, man, you're gonna die if you walk up out of here. Like, he was like, "They're gonna kill you. Just hold tight." So I hold tight 30 minutes, 45 minutes, and finally, like, when it kind of looked kind of clear, I got up out of there. But you could tell, like, when I peeped my head up, like, everybody in the store, I'm looking, everybody else is looking. Like, everybody's looking I'm looking at the door, they're all looking at me. I'm like, okay, yeah, this is what it is. So I hopped in the car, and I went straight to the facility to turn in the money. And I didn't leave the facility for a few hours to make sure that, I wasn't about to get got. But anyways, you see all of that BS. Well, it just doesn't make sense to put your employees in this amount of craziness. It's nonsensical, And there were drivers that had gotten robbed. There were different people that have gotten robbed and stuff like that. And from my understanding, most distributors have gone away from taking cash. There's no more taking cash. You have an account, or you have some type of check or some other kind of payment. Hell, just Apple Pay, whatever. It's too many different ways that you can pay where people aren't walking out with bags of cash, looking like straight up victims, So that was a big change in the industry. Okay, cool. So you guys have got two back to back. I know I haven't made up for being gone. but enjoy these two back to back. I've got another one coming up on another that didn't age well. And you guys let me know what you think in the comments. Please like and subscribe. Talk to you guys soon.